Hello, welcome to another episode of Wicked Easy Cooking. My name is Chef Colin Roach, and today we're making homemade, awesome, wicked easy buttermilk biscuits. Yum, yum, yum. Now, a biscuit in this country is a soft, flaky, almost like a roll, but it doesn't have yeast in it. Instead of the leavening agent, it's usually baking soda, baking powder, or a combination of the two. It doesn't have the yeast in it like a roll. But a biscuit is still kind of that idea. It's not like in other parts of the world, like where my brother lives in England, a biscuit is like a cookie or a cracker. It's something really hard. It's not that. We're talking soft, luscious biscuits. And since biscuits use either baking soda, baking powder, or both as its leavening agent, they're considered a quick bread, kind of like zucchini bread or, pumpkin bread that you might make. Again, no yeast in these. I'm going to show you a quick version. Now, the version I'm going to show you today is wicked easy. Only has 6 ingredients, and it's going to come out so soft, flaky, and buttery in there. It's going to be your go-to biscuit recipe. Okay, for the wicked easy homemade biscuits, as mentioned, we only have 6 ingredients. I also have the recipe here, which I'm going to post at the end of this video, and I'll also put it into the comments section so you can try this at home. So as mentioned, the 6 ingredients. We have all-purpose flour. We're going to use 2½ cups, okay, to level that off in your measuring cup. Over here, we've got 2 tablespoons of baking powder. We have 1 teaspoon of salt. We have 2 teaspoons of sugar. You can use honey, brown sugar if you want. I'm using white. And then we're going to put in our butter. And this recipe is going to be calling for 1/2 cup. So I got the 2 half sticks here. And then we're going to put in buttermilk. Buttermilk is great. We use 1 cup of it. This is going to make it really kind of tangy. It's going to make it flaky, and it's going to give it a little bit of a flavor. So we're going to put all that together. But first I want to give you a couple of tips. Simple ingredients, but these tips are what makes it awesome. So tip number 1 is to keep everything cold. My butter is actually frozen. I put it into the freezer because I'm going to grate that in a minute on a box grater. That's going to keep it super cold, and I'll tell you why in just a second. The other thing is obviously the buttermilk is cold, and I even put the flour in the bowl in the refrigerator. You can see how it's kind of fogged up here from being in the refrigerator. So I want everything as cold as possible. We don't want to get that fat too hot where it actually breaks down. The other tip, number 2, is don't overmix. And you'll see that when I start putting all this together. You don't want to build up a lot of gluten into it. You don't want to be squishing it too much. Even when we use our cutters, we're not going to twist them. We're going to just push them down through. And that's so we don't pinch those edges together, because we really want it to puff. And when I fold it, I'll show you that trick too. Instead of just squishing it up, we're going to fold it almost like puff pastry. That's going to build those layers in there. And then when this cold fat hits the hot oven, what happens is it starts to melt, and there's water in it, and that turns to steam, and that provides some of the leavening and makes it nice and flaky. The other trick is you could use milk, but I like buttermilk. Buttermilk, I think, balances out the salt in there, but also creates the most tender biscuits because it does have, a little bit of tang in there in that buttermilk. Okay, so let's get on mixing it. Now, I do want to tell you the oven is set at 425. I don't know if you can see it over here behind me, but it's already set. It's already preheated. We want a good hot oven. It's only going to take about 15 minutes. It's going to give it that nice spring, and you're going to see that in the finished biscuit. Okay, so the first step is we're going to mix. We got our flour, we've got our baking powder, we've got our salt, and we've got our sugar. What we want to do is mix our dry ingredients. So I'm just going to use a whisk here and just kind of stir it all together. Some recipes say sift together, which you could certainly do if you have a sifter. But you really want to make sure that baking powder is dispersed all through the flour and not just, in certain areas, so it can give it that good lift as it gets in the oven. So I'm just going to stir that for a minute. Again, I'm not using my hands. I don't want to provide any heat. I want to keep it as cold as possible that we can do. And now we're going to have to add in our butter. But as I mentioned, I want to grate it. So I have a box grater here, and I'm just going to rub it on the side, make it into small pea-sized pieces. That's what we're looking for, smaller the better. And then we're gonna cut that into the flour, and I'm gonna show you that in just a second. Now, some people will take the butter and put it in with the flour and put it into a food processor, and that actually uses the blades of the food processor to cut the butter into it. And that's perfectly fine as well. I'm just gonna do it because it's easy, and we don't wanna bring out another piece of equipment that we're gonna have to wash. So I'm just gonna do it this way. So we're gonna grate this up, and then we're gonna incorporate it. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I just finished grating up all this butter. You can see it here. I'm just gonna wipe down the sides here so we don't lose any of it. Some on the inside as well. And you can see it's all kind of, you know, like shredded cheese. This is great for our incorporating it. So we're gonna put this into our flour. Now we're going to just cut in the butter. And it's called that because you actually cut it in using knives. Now you could use forks if you wanted to. And all you're gonna do is try to incorporate it, get all this butter coated with the flour. Again, you could use your hands if you wanted to, but I would only use your fingertips. That's the coldest part. Don't get it near your palms. It's too warm. Our body heat will start melting that butter. And the trick is to keep our fat cold. So, and it's already pea-sized little pieces, so we don't really have to spend too much time with it. But as mentioned, you could use 2 forks, or you could actually use a pastry cutter, which are excellent for this. You want to purchase one of those, and I'll put a listing of all these different tools in the comments section in case you want to check out what the ones I'm talking about. So we're going to get this all mixed in. We want it to kind of look like sand, you know. It's kind of got the butter, not any too big of chunks, but we don't want it too small either. So now what's going to happen is these small pieces of fat, butter in this case, are going to melt when they hit the hot temperature of the oven. And there's water in there, so that water is going to turn into steam. That steam is going to rise up, separating those layers of flour into almost like puff pastry. You know, you might have seen puff pastry dough before with all those layers in it. That's what's going to give this biscuit its awesome flaky softness to it. But it's also that butter melts, providing fat inside the dough, which is going to give it its really rich taste. Okay, this is all cut in. So now, clean up here a minute. We can put like a well in the middle of this, and I'm going to add in this 1 cup of buttermilk. So we pour that in. Now we're going to stir everything to combine. We don't want to over mix it. We don't want to build up gluten like we would in bread. We want it to stay very, very soft. So we just want to combine it. And the dough is going to look like, you know, shreds or shards of flour. And I'll show you that in just a second. Again, I'm using the whisk. You could use a spoon or something, but we just want to incorporate it. We don't want to use the hands and really build up a lot of that gluten. And the whisk is cold, where my hands will be warm. Okay, so it is incorporated. So these are like the shards I was talking about. You know, they're kind of like chunks of the dough with the butter in there. Still very, very cold from the frozen butter and the cold flour and the cold milk, which is what we're looking for. So now I have some extra flour here. I'm going to put it down here on the table, the counter, and we're going to turn this dough out onto it, and we're going to start our rolling process. Okay, so we have it all incorporated. So we'll just kind of crumbly at this point. I'm going to turn it out onto our floured table. And we're going to mix and try to put it with our hands into kind of a rectangle shape. Okay, so I've got the dough kind of like into a rectangle shape here. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of fold it over onto itself. So, you know, we kind of make it a little thicker, and then we push it back down again. And we can use our rolling pin, kind of get it in the shapes we want. A little more flour if needed. And then we fold it over again. again, onto itself. This is like the pastry, the puff pastry method, laminated dough type of thing. So it's going to give us those multiple layers on top of each other, which is really going to give our biscuit the texture that we want. Okay, and then we fold the back side over. And then again, we flatten it down. And then we're pretty good. We're going to do it one last time. I'm going to fold it all the way over onto itself. And now we're good. So we can take our rolling pin, a little more flour here, and we're going to roll it out to about a 1/2 inch size. And that's going to be good for our cutter to cut out our biscuits. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so now we've got it about a 1/2 inch rolled out, which is perfect. Now we're going to use a cutter. When you do the cutting, you don't want to twist, because what happens is that pinches down the sides. You won't get as much lift. We're going to try to go straight through it, okay? And for that, we're going to put it on a sheet pan and go right into our oven. Now, if you want, you just put some butter on here. I have a little extra here, and you could butter the bottom of it, or you could use parchment paper, which you can buy in the grocery store, either one. I guess I'll put it on parchment paper. See how easy it is to work with that. You know, pull it off here, and we just put it into our pan, which is very easy. All right, I'm going to put a little butter just to hold it down. Here we go. And now take our cutter. Again, don't twist it. Get as close to the edge as you can. Just push it down. Go to the next one. Push it down. And keep doing this. Get as many as you can. And then we're going to take the scraps and make more biscuits. Re-roll them. So you can do this pretty fast, you know, once you get the hang of it. So you can make these biscuits in 30 minutes, you know, roll them out really quick, put it in the oven for in 15 minutes, and you'll have these biscuits. So let's pull these off. Now the other thing you want to do is you want to put your biscuits very close together, touching, because that'll help when they rise up. So just put them next to each other in your pan, you know, so they're touching on the edges. This will really help them when they go to rise when they're in the oven. I've got my biscuits here. Okay. All right, so here I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got 10 from that first cut. Not bad. And now I'm going to re-roll this dough. Okay, so we got 17 biscuits. I'm going to pop them in the oven, but here's another trick. You could take a little extra buttermilk and put it on the surface, or melted butter, either one. That'll help them brown up. So I actually have a little bit left here in the cup, so I'm just going to put those on here and spread them out. So now when I put them on there, I'm just going to spread that buttermilk out on the tops here. That's going to help it brown. And in the oven they go. See you in 15. Now this is a great plain homemade buttermilk biscuit recipe. I serve it with dinner. I also use it as the base for my biscuits and gravy recipe, which is another video. I hope you check that out. But you could also add things to it, like cheddar cheese, minced bacon, some small chunks of ham, herbs like chives would go great, or scallions in it. And what I'll do is I'll put some of those options in the recipe that I'm going to post at the end of the video, as well as in the comments section, in case you want to try some of those at home. But here's a quick one that I'll do right now in this video, and that's take 2 tablespoons of butter and 1 tablespoon of honey, and put those together in the microwave just till they melt. This is some nice Florida honey here, so I'm going to add that in. And this makes a honey butter topping that once it softens, you're just going to paint this onto your finished biscuits when they come out of the oven. Really adds that finishing touch. I know my kids love it. So we'll do that when ours comes out of the oven. Okay, it's been just about 16, 17 minutes. You want to cook them 15 to 20 or until the tops get brown. I think they're ready. Let's pull them and check them out. Oh, look at that. Beautiful, huh? See, you can see the nice golden brown. They've puffed up, and if we open these up, ooh, they're hot. See all those little layers in there? It's going to be awesome. But I have the honey butter here that I made. I'm just mixing those 2 ingredients together and heating them up in the microwave. We're going to paint these on all the tops here, and that's going to give it a nice glaze as well as a unique flavor for them. I think these are going to be great little biscuits. And as we always say, the proof is in the pudding. So let's taste one here. See how it is. So I've got one here. These are a little hot, nice and brown. These are good. Definitely try these at home and share them with your friends. And these store really well. Once they cool down, just put them in a container, tight covered lid, and you can keep these in the counter or in the refrigerator for up to 5 days. You can also freeze them for up to 3 months and just pull them out, warm them up in the oven, and serve them that way. So again, I'll put all this information in the recipe at the end. All right, so now let's get these ready for dinner. So I have a little plate here, a little napkin to keep them warm. Pick these up, put them inside here, stack them up. Put these almost in the center of the table. And there's probably, let's see, 2 to 3 per person here for my family. And any leftovers are great. So we put these on our little pan here, and you can see that. And then we just close it up, keep them warm. Honey butter biscuits. Homemade buttermilk biscuit. Again, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And hope you try these yourself at home. And if you do, let us know how they came out. Put it in the comments section. Especially if you tried it with some of those other ingredients, the bacon or the ham. Okay? Bye now.